Hello everyone, my name is Anubhuti and I love to talk about everything beauty related. I love to do product reviews and I also love to get use out of my makeup collection more efficiently. That is why I have been participating in a lot of project pans because I think that is a good way to rotate through your makeup collection and then see what interests you, get more use out of it, and so on and so forth. So I have also been documenting my project planning journey here on YouTube since last year. So if those are the things you are interested in, make sure to subscribe before jumping into today's video. I'm so sorry if light is throwing you off balance here because the sun is kind of setting and it's just right behind me. So I apologize if the lighting goes off in between. So as you know from the title, today we are here with my spring palette compilation. I have done my favorite fall palettes in fall last year 2023 and I really enjoyed it because I'm not someone who does seasonal basket, but because now I don't wear makeup that often or not every day at least, then I do find it is a good idea to kind of focus on certain palettes. Otherwise I always end up reaching for my comfort palettes over and over again and some of the palettes just never get used. So that is why I've been trying to rotate through my eyeshadow palettes a lot more. That is the kind of my focus right now, and then that is why I have decided to do my favorite fall eyeshadow palettes in last fall's 2023, and now I'm back with my spring favorite palettes. So probably these will be the palettes I would like to get more use of, or at least focus towards, revisit them this spring season. Also to kind of give you a reminder, if you have these palettes already in your collection, make sure to pull them out, get some use out of them. So as usual, I'm not gonna be limiting myself to 10. So then I have actually 10 bigger palettes and 5 smaller palettes. So anything 9 pence and above I consider as a bigger palette, and less than 9 pence I consider it as a small palette. So then that out of the way, I'm gonna be mentioning my favorite picks for spring 2024 from my collection. So I'm gonna mention the products basically based on alphabetical order of the brands. So one brand, and then I will list all my favorites from them, and then so on and so forth. And these are not in order that I like them. So if I mention any palette first, that doesn't mean that is my absolute favorite, or if I mention any product, any palette last, doesn't mean that is my least favorite. So yeah, it's gonna be mostly in alphabetical order of the brands. So that is out of the way. Now let's talk about the palettes. So first palette I have is from ABH, and that is Norvina palette. I have used this palette, but not as much as I would like to use it. This is how my palette looks like. Like I said, I am someone who is very light-handed when it comes to eyeshadows, so then my pans doesn't show that much usage even if I use them a lot. And I think you should check my project level up for that matter. I have used one eyeshadow 10 times, it doesn't look used. Like most people hit pan in like 10 usage, me not so much. I think in spring I gravitate towards the purples, pinks, like the pastel pinks, and also green. Those are the shades I gravitate towards during the spring, bright and colorful. So then I think this is a perfect candidate. This has beautiful purple shades. Some of the purple shades are beautiful, and also I love wearing this shade which is called Wild Child, this pinky shade. Love it. I am going to ignore probably the deeper, darker mattes, but I do love this kind of periwinkle matte called Soul. Yeah, I love this palette for spring. So this is my first palette. The second palette is also from ABH, and this is Carli Bible, and this is how mine looks like. I have used it, especially I reached for these grungy purple shades in this palette, and also this grungy golden is one of my favorite shades from this palette, and also these like bluish grayish purples. These are like my favorite shades from this palette, but nonetheless, this is for me. Especially I think because of the mattes this palette has, this for me screams as a spring palette. So I love this beautiful bright kind of peachy toned, and I like and also I like this kind of duochrome shade called Mandela, and also this kind of periwinkle blues also is something that I gravitate towards during the springtime. And this also has a beautiful pink, which is called Aura. So this is the second palette for my spring recommendation. So those were the two ABH palettes that I think is spring appropriate for me from my collection. Let's move to Huda Beauty. Huda loves to do pinky tone, mauvey tone, mattes, and a lot of her palettes have some inspiration of like the pink tones, and that is why almost all Huda palettes I gravitate towards, except like the nudes, Naughty Nude palette. I just gravitate towards in spring season. So then the first palette from Huda Beauty is her Nude Light palette. This is my favorite palette from her 9 pans, and these two shades are my absolute favorite. There is huge dip going on. Probably potentially I can hit pan on this spring if I use it enough. Not sure about that though, but this is one of my favorite palette. I reach for it quite often. These are the Shifty. This is kind of a duochrome pinky golden pinky peachy golden kind of shade, and this purple is also beautiful. I love the shimmers in this palette, and also the mattes. If you like that soft fairy eyes kind of look, like the sparkling shimmers all over your eyes, barely there mattes in your crease, this is a perfect palette for it. I am definitely gonna be reaching for it again this spring and summer also. This is one of my favorite Huda palettes, and also probably most used Huda palette in my collection. Then the second from Huda Beauty is another one from her bigger eyeshadow palettes. It is Mercury Retrograde. I love greens. Like I said, I love greens and pinks and purples in springtime, and this is all of them. I love this purple and this pink a lot. These are my most used shades from this palette. These three basically, this lighter pink, sorry if I'm blinding you, this lighter pink, this deeper pink, this purple, and also this green. I like to use it as a liner. This, I am intimidated by the bright mattes, but maybe this time I should give it a try. I mostly use the lighter mattes here, and then I would pop one of the shimmers, and then I'm done with it. Super excited. This purple also, the purple in this also looks nice as a liner on lower lash line. So that is my second freak from Huda Beauty. So my fifth eyeshadow palette for my spring favorites is again from Huda Beauty, and that is her beloved Rose Quartz. You notice the theme here: pinks, purples, mauves, mauvey purples. Spring in a palette for me. See, probably Huda is the only brand I have 3 palettes from in my spring basket. That was the 5th palette. Now 6th palette is from the brand Natasha Denona. Those were all the Huda palettes in the list. Now Natasha Denona. I love Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes. And when I saw this palette, Natasha Denona Retro Glam, when I saw this palette, I thought this is a spring palette. It was released, I think, around fall time. Not sure when it was released, but it was released around the holiday or the fall time in 2022. And then when I saw this palette, I was like, this is a spring palette. Definitely a spring palette. I have not used all shades from this palette, but I have dipped in mostly into the metallics. For me, this reminds me of Cherry Blossom. I don't know why. Maybe it's the packaging, like the light pink, baby pink packaging and the outer packaging. But this palette reminds me of Cherry Blossom. The greens, the lighter greens in this one, I think I'm gonna create a beautiful look out of this one. This is another favorite for me for the spring season. So I think that's the only Natasha Denona palette, bigger palette in the collection. Now let's move on to Mcgrath. I do have 2 Mcgrath palettes in the list. So this is the 7th palette in the listing, and this is a newer palette. I have used it only once. So this is from the holiday 2023. And when I saw this palette, I was like, this is spring in a palette for me. And there are 2 blushes, which will definitely work on me as more like the brighter shade. It will work on me beautifully in spring and summer. 2 blushes in it, and then you see the beautiful greens and this pink, shifty pink. It reminds me of spring. But Mcgrath doesn't do, she likes to do more like the rosy, mauvey, or the bronzy stories, but this was something different. This green, I love this fresh, refreshing green from her. So yeah, this is my pick for the spring palette from Mcgrath. Another one, Motership, from Mcgrath is Motership 9. This is called Huetopian Dreams, and this is also one of my picks for. Look at the color story. If you ignore these 4 shades, like these are like the basic shades. If you see these 6 shades here, these are like the spring tones. I absolutely love this shade. And this is the duochrome, which looks beautiful. Like if you pair these 2 also together, just put it like this brighter coral shade on in your crease, and then just this duochrome or this purple tone, top it off over any of the eyeshadows, and it just transforms the look. And that is why this is my kind of accent palette that I like to pair up with other spring palettes from the list. If you think the metallics are not doing enough and you want that pop, that jazz that you're lacking, just pick any of these 4 shades. It's gonna transform your look. Love this. And also, not for the spring, but this bronze, this shade, this one here, this is one of my favorite shades in this palette. Although not for spring, but overall. So this is, yeah, Mcgrath. Now, let's move to the next brand. And the palette number 9. Oh, we are already at the palette number 9. It is from Too Faced. Yeah, I know a lot of people are not using Too Faced anymore, but I own this palette. If I own this palette, I'm gonna make sure I get my money's worth out of it. This is Too Faced Chocolate Gold, and so should you. If you have paid your money, if you don't want to use it, just sell it or just get your money's worth from this palette. Basically, don't waste your money. So this is Chocolate Gold. It smells of chocolate from this far. Yeah, brighter shades. Love this for spring. This green, this gold, and this pink. These are my most used shades when I pull it out for a spring look or the summer look. These 3 pair really well together. I can make some really gorgeous look out of this palette. And I love this light periwinkle. I like to use it with my other periwinkles, but in the inner corner. And this palette is, I love this one. This is my first Too Faced palette ever. I did not fall for the chocolate or the chocolate bonbon or whatever the chocolate series. This was the first Too Faced palette that I purchased. I loved it, the color story that much. These are my type of colors. This green, I love to use it as a liner, and this complements my brown eyes really, really well. If you have brown eyes, greens are your best buddies. Now, last but not the least palette in the list, from the bigger palettes, 10th palette for the spring favorites is from Urban Decay. That is a palette, the Stone Cold Vibes. You see how beautiful this is. It is a pain to store this, but I can't ignore the fact that this is so beautiful. So beautiful. This is how mine looks like. This is basically, this has 4 mattes. Let me take the brush out. So this has 4 mattes. So these are the 4 mattes. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 mattes, and rest 8 shades are metallics. And those metallics, so beautiful. They are absolutely gorgeous. My favorite, Jade, Opalora, Vibes, and then Raw Energy. These are the shades I like to reach for in like the spring's time. These are all like the shifty metallic shades. Every shade is beautiful. All the metallics from this palette, I love to use it. All the metallics from this, probably except this blue, but that blue is also like very gorgeous blue if you are someone who like blue. But this I reach towards more like in summer, but rest of them it's perfect spring summer shades for me. So those were all the 10 big palettes that are my spring favorites. Now I have 5 smaller palettes that I would like to mention as my spring favorites. And then first of them is also, these are also in alphabetical order. So then first of them is Essence Dancing Green. This is how it looks like. Greens. It has possibly all shades of greens, and I love this. I've already used it a lot. There is already, yeah, such like dip going on this shade. This is my favorite shade from this palette. This one. I love this. This is like very unique kind of shade in my collection. I love it. This is my first pick. A green. But these greens are different enough that you can get multiple use out of. Given the 6-pan palette this is, you can get definitely more than 3 looks out of this palette. So then I love it for the versatility, good quality. So this is my first pick for the smaller palette for spring. The second palette is a trio from Kaja. These are the Bento Beauty Bento stacks. This is 02 Orange Blossom, and this comes with 3 shades. This has all 3 shades are metallics. So this is one beautiful like taupey pink shade, but this not so much my spring shade, but this orangey shifty orangey golden shade, and this is a pinky shade. This trio is a perfect for me, perfect spring and summer trio for me. And this is just so small, perfect for travel. I love it. So this is my second pick. Now my third and fourth pick are from Natasha Denona, because of course I love Natasha Denona palettes. And yeah, so then next palette I want to mention is Natasha Denona Mini Pastel palette, and this is how mine looks like. I have used it. This shade, I bought this palette for this and this shade. Love it. And probably I'm not someone who reach for pastel eyeshadows a lot. I love to reach for pastel metallics, but mattes are not something that I kind of am afraid of. Colorful mattes. I love this. Four metallics in a 5-pan. This is my kind of palette, and I love this one. I love all the 4 metallics here. Matte, I've used it only once, but I do want to get use out of this more. So this is my third pick. The fourth palette I want to mention is another mini from Natasha Denona, and that is her mini retro palette. Oh, you can see how love this one is. My favorite, this shade from this palette. This is my absolute favorite shade from this palette. And this green also. This also reminds me of like spring, somehow. Light tones. Just you can't go wrong with this palette. You can do like monotone look from this one. Put this in crease, all over the lids, in a corner, or just all over the lids. You get 2 different monochromatic look. If then you can mix the green and the peach, and then you get another look, and then you can do one full green look. So this again 5-man, 3 looks straight, like 3 or 4 looks I think you can get out of it, and I love it. Very, very easy to use palette in my opinion, and also her most raved about mini after the nude one, I think. I love this one. So this was my 4th pick for the smaller spring palettes. And 5th and last pick for the mini palette that reminds me of spring is from Mcgrath. This is her Blitz Astral Quad called Ritualistic Rose. And these are the 4 her special Blitz Astral shades. I know this palette did not get as much love or as much rave in the community. I'm not sure why. It was in my, I think, Project Level Up last year, and then I got to use it a lot, and I love it. If I want to just take one companion palette, if I'm traveling somewhere for a wedding or anywhere for a party or any vacation, and if I want something to jazz up, this is my companion palette. I like to travel with. So I will just keep one eyeshadow palette or two eyeshadow palettes, and then I would just throw this as a companion palette. This transforms the look. All these 4 shades are gorgeous. This is my favorite one. This was also my focus shade for my project Level Up last year. This is beautiful duochrome. This is called, I think, Desert Orchid, or I'm not sure what this is called, but this is a beautiful shade, duochrome. Love it. So this was my final pick for the smaller eyeshadow palette. So I think those were all the eyeshadow palettes I wanted to talk about in today's video. I hope you enjoy the video. Which are your favorite spring palette picks? Please share in the comment section below. Also, if you do own any of these palettes in your collection, this is your sign to pull them out and get use out of them in the spring season. And also, are you someone who likes to do the seasonal eyeshadow palettes basket or trends, or you just go with what you feel like that day? I'm a mix of both. Most of the time I just feel like what I want to reach for, but if that's the case, then I would probably end up reaching for the same 1 or 2 palettes over and over again. So that's why I'm being more mindful about what I am using, and I'm rotating enough through my eyeshadow palette collection. So yes, 10 bigger palettes, 5 smaller palettes, total 15 spring palette recommendations. Do you own any of these? Which one are your favorites? Which one are your absolute go-to for spring palettes? Please share everything in the comment section below. I would love to know about it. And that is it for today's video. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are, and I will see you in my next one. Bye bye.